What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. We're going to talk about the Primordial Stones today. Very excited about this new system that's coming in 10.0.7, along with the new continent here. This is just a picture I have of the new continent that we're going to be able to play, which is going to be awesome. This is the sort of the origin story of the Drakthir, where they got their start. And of course, it's a whole new continent for us to explore, this Forbidden Reach. But what I want to focus on today is specifically why we're going to go to this new continent in 10.0.7. What's the purpose? What's the point? Why are we even going here in the first place? And the main reason why we're going is because of these Primordial Stones that we're going to be getting from the quest line that comes over here on the Morket Islet. So let me talk about it really quickly. These stones, I have a bunch of pictures of them that we're going to get to in a second. But I just want to talk really quickly about sort of how you're going to acquire them. So you're going to go to this island basically every day, and you're going to farm this one quest that originates right here. And it's basically there's a cave right here, and you go down into these vaults, and you go into the vault every day, and you take keys with you. And the keys you acquire from killing all the rares on the island. And I've tried to kill them. Let me tell you, they're very, very difficult to kill. It's not easy. All these rares are like super Giga Chad rares. Like, you're going to need groups of people. But when this island goes live, there's going to be people all over the place killing these rares. So it's not going to be that hard to do. So you're going to go, you're going to kill rares. You're going to get these keys, these vault keys, and you're going to take them down into the vault, and you're going to open locked doors. Behind those locked doors, there's a chance that you might end up getting some of these stones that are down there, and they're gonna be these Primordial Stones. Again, we'll talk about these in a second, but I'll just put this up over here. So that's what you're going to be doing. That's what you're mostly going to be focused on in terms of your daily activities on this island. You're going to be flying around, killing rares and looting chests, and trying to get these different stones. I'll just put those over there for now. There's bosses to kill. There's chests to loot. I've only found one chest to loot, to be fair, right near this first rare. Right here, he's like a monkey dude. And I killed him a couple times. I haven't actually been able to kill him, sorry. But there's a chest right next to him you can loot, and it gives you a stone, a key to go down into the vault. But anyway, that's going to be the gameplay loop for the Forbidden Reach, is just going, killing rares, looting chests, going into the vault, opening as many doors as you can on a daily basis, and getting these stones that you're going to see here. And there's 25 of them from what we understand. Now, this is a daily thing because this vault resets on a daily basis. So you get a whole new set of locked doors. So I don't know how many keys you could actually farm in one day, but presumably lots and lots of keys you could farm. So we'll just have to see how that kind of goes. But for all your efforts going to the island, killing rares, getting keys, going to the vaults, and getting these stones, is it really going to be worth it? What are we getting out of it? And of course, we're getting these really, really cool stones here. So let me talk about these stones. I've got them in a picture here, and we'll just go over each of them and what they do. But I've got them sort of separated into categories. What you're going to start out with, actually, is a ring, and you're going to get this ring right here called the Onyx Annulet. So this is what we're going to be socketing all of these gems into, is of course this Onyx Annulet. It starts at 405 item level, and then it's going to increase from there. It's going to go up up to potentially 424 item level, depending on what gems you're socketing in. So these Primordial Stones that we get can actually be upgraded over time. And the item level, as they go up, the item level of your ring will also go up. So there's no secondary stats on this ring. It's just 3 slots for the gems to go into. What we understand is that these gems can be slotted in and they can be taken out without needing any extra help. Back in Sanctum of Domination, we needed to buy an additional item to take our Domination sockets out. You don't have to do that here. You can just take them out freely, which is really cool. And then we also know that there are some interesting potential combinations of these gems. If you put them together, they have additional effects, and I'll get to that in a second here. But let's look at the gems themselves. So there's different sort of categories that I've looked at. There's a bunch of fire ones here. There's a bunch of sort of random damage ones. There are some tank ones, it looks like. There's some water-themed ones. And then I would say there's some utility ones. So let's look at the fire ones just to start. Hopefully these are big enough for you here. There's some pretty basic ones, okay? Flame Lick Stone, dealing damage is a chance to set the enemy on fire. So dealing any damage can set them on fire, doing fire damage. This, I believe, would be another helpful way to proc the effects from the Diurna ring that you can get from the Broodkeeper fight in the raid, Broodkeeper Diurna. because that has a fire coefficient thing as well. So that's kind of cool. Fire damage dealt by Primordial Stones is increased by 60% and is now chaos damage. So it pierces resistances, I guess, and just counts as all damage types, which maybe you could scale that with some of your other effects, like maybe Enhancement Shaman Mastery would scale that. I doubt it, but I don't know. These are things that we don't know. Raging Magma, absorbing damage, has a chance to coat you in lava, causing melee attackers to suffer damage. So any tanks that have absorbs, which is almost all the tanks, like Warriors have Ignore Pain, Guardian Druids have shields from Ursox, Paladins have shields from Avenger's Shield, Monks can get Celestial Brew. I mean, there's just all kinds of absorbs on the tanks, right? So, very interesting. I feel like this is going to be pretty good for tanks. Successful interrupts exhale smoke, dealing damage. This is really good for like any interrupts you can do. So like shamans have a ranged 12-second kick, best kick in the game, right? Very good. But I don't know if this means interrupting with stuns. It sounds like it's just interrupts, but I think like Avenger's Shield would work as well for a prop paladin. So well, I don't know. Let's see, but it's interesting. Those are the fire-themed ones. Let's look at the ice ones really quick. Gain frost armor every 20 seconds that absorbs damage. So that's kind of cool. This is actually should be part of the tanking tree. I'll move it later, but the point is it is sort of a frost-themed one that'll be meaningful in a minute. Receiving heals is a chance to exude cold steam, restoring 12,000 health to yourself and 2 nearby allies. So this is like if you heal a tank and they have this on them, they will heal other people, which is again an interesting effect. Very, very cool. It depends like how often it procs in terms of how good it will be. Abilities have a chance to drench a nearby ally, healing them for 43-35 until canceled. Not really sure what that means, but this is just like can proc at any moment, which is really interesting. Dealing damage is a chance to chill the enemy, dealing frost damage and slowing them by 30%. Okay, so that's the DPS one. This is the tank frosty one, and then there's kind of 2 healing frosty ones, which is very interesting. Now, let's go over here and look at a lot of the sort of random DPS ones that you can pick up. And I'm going to look at them here. So, Desirous Bloodstone. Dealing damage has a chance to drain life, healing, and dealing 12,000 shadow damage. So that's interesting. Like, I don't know if this scales with, like, Shadow Priest Mastery, which doesn't actually buff your shadow damage anymore, I guess. Maybe this would scale with, like, Unholy DK Mastery, because I believe that increases your pet damage and your Unholy, like, your shadow damage. So, we'll just have to wait and see. Again, there's some potentially interesting synergies here, but that's obviously, like, good for a tank. Passing a corpse grants the blood, frost, and unholy primordial stone effects for 45 seconds. So again, this is really interesting. I don't know if this means like you could only have 3 socketed. So this would be one of the stones that you have socketed, right? So I'm assuming you can only have 2 other gems. So you could have a frost and a blood, or a blood and an unholy, or unholy and a frost. You could have one of those, right? And I think that means that you could potentially put in like one of these frost gems over here, right? Dealing damage, has a chance to do frost damage, which is kind of cool. And then this would proc that as you walk past a corpse. So as you're killing enemies in Mythic Plus, you could be proccing damage from other gems. I think that's the idea. Not entirely sure about that. Dealing magic damage has a chance to fire arcane missiles for each primordial stone family that you have equipped. So very interesting. If you have, again, a frost stone, maybe a bloodstone, maybe a fire stone, you could get extra damage. And it does arcane damage, which is kind of interesting. Maybe that would scale with Arcane Mage Mastery. I don't really know. Dealing damage has a chance to infect the target with a spreading plague. Dealing nature damage until canceled. Critically striking enemies is a chance to shock them and 2 nearby enemies. That's kind of interesting. Relies on crits, of course. Moving starts to build an electrical charge, causing your next damaging ability to also deal damage. So this is like for melee, right? You move around a lot. Makes sense for melee. So that's a lot of sort of the random DPS ones. Let's look at the tanking ones for a second. Standing still for 3 seconds in combat steals yourself, absorbing 25,000 damage and increasing auto attack damage by 305. This was an effect that existed actually back in Shadowlands, I believe. There was like a trinket, I think, that did this for my prop pally. I remember standing still and getting massive shields, which was kind of cool. Might have been BFA, but I think it was Shadowlands. So there, again, is there an internal cooldown on this? We don't know. Like, if you stand still and proc the shield, and then move one step to the left, and then stand still again, does it start proccing? Does it start counting up to 3 seconds again? That would be really cool, right? It's annoying having to stand still so much, but I don't know. That's kind of a neat effect. Taking damage has a chance to shield you, absorbing 50,000 damage. Gaining an absorb shield from a Primordial Stone, which is one of these other two ones, or the Frost one that I mentioned earlier. Gaining an absorb shield from a Primordial Stone erupts the ground, dealing physical damage. So this seems like an obvious tank combo, right? You grab maybe Indomitable Earthstone plus Shining Obsidian Stone, and then go and grab the Frost Armor one over here. Every 20 seconds, you're guaranteed to get a shield. And you put all those together, and you end up doing a bunch of damage with these physical spikes. So kind of an interesting tank combo there as well. Let's look at what I'm going to call the utility ones. This is the last 7 stones. These are kind of utility-based. So entering combat increases your tertiary stats for you and 4 allies. Great for Mythic Plus. Fantastic for Mythic Plus. Not very good in Raid, but in Mythic Plus, you're entering and exiting combat all the time. So that's kind of cool. Spells and abilities have a chance to cast a random Primordial Stone effect. That's just like any of the 25 stones, I guess. It could just cast any of them, which is kind of wild. That sounds random to me, like it's not going to be a good thing, but it's kind of cool, potentially. Damaging effects from your Primordial Stones trigger your healing effects and vice versa, which is like... Maybe this would be really, really good for healers, in particular, in Mythic Plus, let's say, who are doing damage and healing all the time. So you could have this stone plus 1 healing stone and 1 damaging stone. And then this one is just triggering them, and they're like triggering each other while you're doing damage and healing. I don't know how often. Again, does this have an internal cooldown? We're not really sure. Frost effects from Primordial Stones restore mana. So you could combo this with, obviously, the Frost Stones over here and pick any 2 of these other ones. Maybe pick a healing one down here. Abilities have a chance to heal an ally. And pick a Frost Armor one, right? So now you're tankier with your Frost Armor. You have a chance to heal everybody all the time. Remember, you're a healer. And you're getting mana back whenever those things proc. That's kind of cool. That's really cool. So you're like tankier, you're healing, and you're getting mana. Very, very cool. In a raid, that feels like a very powerful effect. It keeps yourself alive. It gives you resources back. It's not a whole lot of mana, but who knows how often it procs, right? If it procs a lot, then maybe it's worth it. Being near a dying creature saps a portion of their mojo, eventually crystallizes it. I have no idea what this means, and there wasn't a good explanation for me on Wowhead, so we'll just have to see kind of what this means. Nature and healing effects from Primordial Stones restores 10,000 health of 5 nearby allies over 7 seconds. So it just says nature and healing effects, right? Because there is a one over here that says dealing damage has a chance to inflict the target with the plague dealing nature damage. So that one would also be included, I believe, into this. So again, potential synergies with Wild Spirit and the Spreading Plague one. And then also a healing one of those Frost ones, maybe, that heals your allies, right? Finally, we have moving rallies the wind to your side, granting you 136 speed, stacking 5 times. Kind of useless in PvE content, maybe not useless in PvE content, or PvP, sorry. And also not useless in the outdoor world content, including past content. If you wanted to go and run a raid to get a transmog or something, or you're just running around the open world in general, you're going to get up to like almost 600 speed with over 600 speed actually with this thing, maybe 700 speed, and maybe that's still not very much. I don't know. It's probably not actually very much. There was a final stone on the list called the Prodigious Sandstone. This just says being near 3 enemies stirs up a sandstorm, dealing nature damage. So again, yeah, it wasn't sort of implemented yet, but that's what it says. So that's all the stones in a nutshell, and of course they're all being socketed into this new ring. Now, let me switch over to the Blizzard post here for a second, and they actually clarified a couple of details about this. Let's just switch over and look at that. So let's look at this for a second. Blizzard explains the Primordial Stone system in patch 10.0.7. So there's a couple of interesting things that they've clarified here. Like they say, by questing in 10.0.7, you'll unlock the Vaults, which is a solo instance dungeon with some fun puzzles to solve. As you venture, you'll acquire the Onyx Annulet, which we talked about, and a bunch of Primordial Stones. It can be socketed. These stones have trinket-like effects, and some also work together to create some spicy combinations, as we were talking about earlier. The Vaults are where you get the stones, and can be accessed with keys that you receive from the Vaults. The keys will be bind on account, so you can get your alts in the Zekra vaults early. This is really, really huge, actually. So you can mail keys to all of your different characters. So you could actually go farm the vaults on like all 5 of your alts and send all of your keys to your main, and then have your main go and farm the vaults, which would probably maximize the number of stones that you're going to get, which is very interesting. This is really cool. You can crush your primordial stones into fragments, which can be repurposed into an item to upgrade your favorite stones through a local jewel crafter. So let's say you get a bunch of stones that you don't care about. Maybe there's one that gives you mana back, and you're like a hunter, and you don't ever care about getting mana back. You can crush that down into fragments. I believe it costs 5 fragments to either upgrade an existing stone, or I've heard actually you can just re-roll and try to get a new stone that you don't have right now. They say it right here. You can use these fragments to purchase newer stones from researcher Lamarath. While you can't buy specific stones, they come in families like fire, frost, the ones we talked about, right? So you'll be able to target the stones that you want. Primordial stones can be unsocketed from the Annulet. Very, very important there to talk about that. Our intent here is to minimize random outcomes, yada, yada. So I think it's really, really good from Blizzard what they're doing there. I believe that is just an important stuff to talk about, that they're really, I think you can tell they've learned, I think, from the previous systems, which obviously this most closely resembles Domination sockets from the Sanctum of Domination raid, which everybody was really scared this was going to be Dom sockets 2.0. So let me just touch on that for a second and explain why I don't think it's going to be Dom sockets 2.0. There's a lot of really good reasons. Number one, Domination sockets were actually found on multiple pieces of gear. Let me show you that. Right, so here's just some pictures of the old school Domination sockets that you could get. Here's my problem with them. Number one, you had to find the gear, and it could only be found in the raid, the Sanctum of Domination raid. So you had to go to the raid and loot the gear from there. Then you had to also get sockets, Domination sockets, which also dropped from the raid itself. So you were really limited. You had to get gear and get sockets, and then get 3 of the same kind so that you could combine them together to have a big bonus. Socket 3 unholy shards to get Chaos Bane, right? So that's the big bonus you're looking for. Excuse me. So there's a lot of RNG. You had to go to the raid. First of all, you had to farm the raid, which is a weekly lockout. You had to get the gear. You had to get the Dom sockets. Very annoying. A lot of RNG there. This is literally just one ring that you get for free doing the quest line. I've done it multiple times now. You get it right out of the gates. The very first vault that you go into, you get this ring for free. So you don't have to like do it every, go in and look for it every week. The vaults reset on a daily basis. So you can do a new Zekra vault on the next day and bring your keys in there, which is really cool. So that's a huge difference. And again, you're not looking for gear plus gems. You get the ring right away, and you're just looking for gems after that. Also, as it said in the Blizzard post, there's ways to break down the gem, the primordial stones, into dust essentially, and then build a new one or upgrade one of your existing ones. That didn't exist with this old system either. Those are all like really compelling reasons as to why this is not just Domination sockets 2.0, which is a really big deal. Also, these were extremely limited. I don't know if you guys remember, but there were literally 9 Domination sockets. There was like Blood, Unholy, and Frost. There was 3 of each. There's 25 Primordial Stones that we know about right now, which is really cool. It means there's way more combos that you can do, a lot more interesting combinations that you can kind of smack together, which I think is really fun and interesting. A lot more interesting than just having 9. Again, and there's not going to be a weekly lockout. It's just a daily thing. You go to the new zone every single day, and you farm these suckers. It's just a daily quest that you can do. There's lots of other stuff to do in this island as well. This isn't a raid, so you don't have to go in with a huge group of people and try to knock down big bosses. Yes, you're killing big rares here, but there's just going to be people all over the place. It's going to be a fun free-for-all outdoor activity, not based on a raid. So I think that really they're nailing the Primordial Stones and exactly what people would want it. I think this is what they wanted for the Domination system back in the day. They just didn't know how to do it very well, and they were kind of limited by the expansion that they were in, of course. So this is not a new system in the same way that we're used to having new systems come into the game. This is entering the game at the tail end of Season 1, right? It's 10.0.7. Like, who knows how long we're even going to have these for? We might only have them for a couple of months before patch 10.1 drops and we're into Season 2 gear. And Blizzard has said that you're going to outshine this stuff as soon as you start getting Season 2 gear. So it's at the end of a season. It's a daily thing you can come in and do. There are tons of combinations. There's 25 gems that we know about. They have interesting properties to them. On top of that, farming them is not going to be that hard. You just kill rares with your buddies and loot chests, and you're going to get keys. You take those keys into the vault. It's a fun little scenario you get to do. So all in all, I think this system is shaping up to be really fantastic, and I think the gems are looking really good as well. I'm really interested in some of the combinations, actually, that I think could be, like the utility combinations in particular. Being able to combo, like, a heal plus a DPS effect and have them trigger each other infinitely, getting mana back from your frost effects, getting shields on shields on shields, potentially on my DPS characters that are kind of weak in the shield department, like a Rep Paladin or my Survival Hunter, which has a really difficult time surviving. So I'm very excited about this system. I think it's going to be great. I think the new island is going to be fantastic. It's going to be just a fun, just daily grind that you can go out and do if you want to. And I don't think it's really going to take that long, unlike sort of the old Domination socket system. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are you excited about these Primordial Stones? Do you think it's just Dom Sockets 2.0? Are you worried about any of this? Or are you excited about some of the new possible combinations and what they might do to your character as just like a fun sort of end of season treat that we get to do? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you all. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.